I'm glad that you were able to join us with the Speakers Bureau once again. If you've been on, if you've watched the Speakers Bureau before, you know what it's about. It's to encourage, it's to inspire, it's to motivate. Motivate you where you are in life, whether you're a student, whether you're a parent, whether you are just someone in the community and you just want to learn more and be encouraged and be a part of moving forward in life. And so we do that through asking guests to come on and share their life story with you, successful people, people who are living what they want to live and the way they want to live, and how did they get there? What was their motivation? Who inspired them? What is their thought process and their ideas? And we do that through their life story. So welcome you to St. Lucie County Public Schools Speakers Bureau. And today we have a wonderful gentleman. He's an attorney. His name is Kafani Nkrumah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, attorney, for coming on today. And I'm sure people are going to want to know, well, how did he get that name? I know I sure wanted to know. But we want to start out today just talking about your profession, how you got involved in what you're doing, and what you do.
Okay. Well.
And welcome to the Speakers Bureau.
Well, thank you, Dr. Mills. Thank you for having me. How did I get started as an attorney?
Yes.
Okay, long story. I grew up back in the, I'm going to be dating myself when I say this, but late 60s, early 70s with Perry Mason.
Okay.
And I used to love to watch Perry Mason and love to see what he was doing on TV as a lawyer, and always wanted to do it. And as all through the years, it was always something that was always in the back of my mind, to become a lawyer. And so I took the long way, a rough way. I dropped out of high school in the 10th grade, got my GED, got accepted to public college in New York, John Jay College of Criminal Justice, started in the remedial program, but soon they realized that I didn't need to be in the remedial program. The reason why I dropped out of school in the 10th grade was, to me, school was kind of slow, and I had started running in the streets. And
Where were you at this time?
I was in the Bronx,
Okay.
New York. I was born in New York City, in Harlem.
Yeah, that's some rough turf.
And then then my mother moved up to the Bronx near Yankee Stadium.
Okay.
And so we lived in the hood. And like I said, started running in the streets. When I got to high school, streets were more fun than being in school. School was kind of slow. I dropped out.
When you say slow, was it that they were not inspiring you to do better, or was it that you already knew the coursework and you needed to have more enriched? What do you, when you reflect back now, what do you think? Why was it slow to you?
I think it was both. We know the assault that's taken place in the public school system, and that assault has been decades in the making. As I said, I grew up in the Bronx, went to public school in the Bronx, and you know, we were underfunded. We had books that weren't up to date, things like that. And the other part of it, I believe, is true too. The work wasn't challenging enough. Like, I would finish the work and just be sitting there.
Yeah, because you're an attorney today, so you had so much in you that now we have enrichment classes, and we have the gifted class. We have a source for children like that need more.
And so I just left school.
And so immediately after you getting your GED, you went straight into college?
No, I got my GED. I joined the Army Reserves. I was in the Army Reserves 7 years. Didn't go nowhere, thankfully. Didn't at that time we weren't engaged in any wars. And then while I was in the reserves, I decided to go back to school. So I applied for college, and I got into John Jay College of Criminal Justice. It's a City University of New York college.
Okay.
And like I said, I started in remedial classes, then they took me out of remedial, put me in regular classes. I was there for about 1.5 years, and then I became a New York State Trooper. I took the exam for the New York State Troopers, passed it well enough to be in the first class called from that list. And that class happened to be the first class after the New York State Police lost a discrimination lawsuit against minorities and women. They weren't hiring enough. So they hired a bunch of us, put us through the training, and tried to kick us out while we were in the training, doing all type of stuff.
So you went through a time of real racism and discrimination and so forth. Continue.
So, some of the training in the academy, they tried to kick us out 2 ways: academically or through physical training. Well, they couldn't get me through the academic, and I had always been playing sports from when I was a little kid. So, physically, I was definitely able to handle that. But they would do stuff like, they would tell you that in the defensive training classes, they would tell you that they wouldn't put anybody for you to box with more than 10 pounds heavier than you. I fought someone who was about 20, 25 pounds bigger than I was. And they were doing that to all the minorities and the women. They got a lot of us out of the class, but then there was some of us who did make it through. I was one of those who became a New York State Trooper. So I was a trooper at 21, 22, somewhere around there. 21.
Well, just hearing that portion of your life, I guess my question would be next is, how did you make it through? I mean, you're an attorney today. How did you mentally deal with that, where you didn't give up, where you were determined? What was going on with that?
My mother taught me how to read by reading her books. And my mother was very conscious. And so at a young age, I started reading Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture. I started reading Du Bois. I started reading Paul Robeson. I started reading books about us.
Did you grow up with mother and father, or just mom?
Just my mother.
Okay.
And
so she started very early with you.
Yes.
In spite of living in poverty or in the projects or wherever you grew up, she dealt with your intellect and helped it.
So we grew up in tenement buildings in the Bronx. So I guess you could say they're the equivalent to projects, but they were buildings that had about maybe 4 or 5 floors with about maybe anywhere from 4 to 6 apartments on each floor.
Okay.
Privately owned. And when we were growing up, the Bronx was called The Bronx Was Burning. And the reason why they said the Bronx was burning, because of those tenement buildings, it was more profitable for the landlords to burn them down than to maintain them. So that's what they were doing in the Bronx during that period. They were burning the buildings down that we were living in. So and our neighborhoods were wrecked. But I think the thing that helped me through all of that was my knowledge of self, my knowledge of who I was as a black man. Like I said, my mom taught me how to read by forcing me to read her books. She used to sit at the table with the belt.
Oh boy.
Waiting for me to get up. But she only had to beat me like once.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's mothers out there now that are single parents, and they're raising their children, and they're raising black males in the hood, and they want, what can I do to ensure the success of my child? And so your mom's example, I'm sure, is talking to someone out there now.
I hope so. But it didn't take at first. because even though she was giving me all that ammunition, I was still
Yeah, but she was giving it to you.
I was still running those streets though.
Right.
So and so
So what caused you to flip and change and say, no, I'm not running them streets anymore. I'm not going to let the streets destroy me. And it definitely was some stuff that Mom was putting into you, but you, like you said, you were your own person. You had your own personality. You still was running the streets. What caused you to change course?
I had a couple of close friends get murdered. A couple of other friends ended up in prison, and I was just watching all of that. I was what really got me in the building that I lived in the buildings that I lived in the Bronx. They were called Trio Apartments. There were 3 of them, and on the top floor of 2 of the 3 apartments was foster homes, and the young men and women who were in the foster homes, growing up with us, they were like family to us. So there was this one brother named Tommy Witt. Never forget him. He was like a brother to me. He was like a little brother to all of us. Everybody loved Tommy. And Tommy, of course, we were all out there doing stuff we weren't supposed to be doing and stuff, and Tommy was too. And somebody set him up. He got into a fight. The dude, it was a one-on-one. We break it up. The dude walks away. He comes back, shoots Tommy, kills him, and leaves. And we're all there. We all see this. And that right there, that for me was, that was the turning point. Now, at that time, I was a trooper when that happened. And again, when I can understand when you see someone that you love harmed in that way, I can understand the revenge factor, right? Because I felt it too. But thankfully, didn't act on it. And
so you made some good choices in the midst of what you endured and what you went through. What I'm hearing is, instead of allowing it to destroy you through making the wrong choice, you've made the right choice. You made good choices that propelled you in the positive direction.
Correct.
So now you go into law school. Let's go there.
Okay, but before I go there, I got to tell you what happened when I was with the state police.
Okay.
As I said, I was a trooper. Came into the state police when because of a lawsuit. Made it through, but they didn't stop trying to get the minorities off the force. I got into some trouble. I had bought a Trans Am. The dealers messed up my plates. I was waiting for my regular plates to come in, so I took plates out of the garage in the. Remember, I'm only like 22. I'm still crazy in the head. I took plates out of the basement of the police barracks and put them on my car so I could drive back and forth until I got my plates.
Oh.
I was home.
That was a bad choice.
Yes, that was a bad choice. Because I was home and the New York City police rolled on me like I was a terrorist. And when they found out I was a trooper, they let me go. They took the place, they let me go, but they called my boy. They called my sergeant. So I got in trouble, got placed on desk duty while I was waiting for them to discipline me. While I was on desk duty one night, the lieutenant came through. At night, they had limited patrols, limited men on duty, right? So the lieutenant for each troop would go from station to station, just checking and making sure everything is okay. This night, the lieutenant comes through. Instead of coming in through the front, he goes in through the back. So I'm like, my patrol is in the break room. They're supposed to be out on patrol. I'm like, yo, the lieutenant's coming. They start to run out through the back. I said, no, he's going through the back. Go out through the front. So they run out through the front, jump in their car, and they bounce. And it's just me. And barracks. So I hear the lieutenant going in the barracks, in the lockers. I hear him opening the lockers. I hear him closing the lockers. I hear him go back out. He drives around, comes in, signs the book, and then leaves. He took someone's firearm. They were trying to get someone fired, and he took their firearm. At that time, with the state police, if you lost your service revolver, that was a very serious offense. So they tried to get the person to say that he lost it. He said it was stolen, which it was. He was on vacation when they took his firearm. So they go through this fake investigation and stuff. I told homeboy what was going on. Lieutenant took your firearm. They're checking everybody. After this, now this person that they were trying to get, his stepfather was second in command of the state police. So they hated him, but they couldn't do nothing with him. So this is how they tried to get him. They inspected all of us. They inspected our firearms, and I went on leave on a Friday. Before I left, they inspected my firearm. It's my firearm. I leave it in my locker. I put my off-duty on, and I leave. I come back Monday. As soon as I get to the station, the lieutenant's there, the crooked lieutenant, and everybody else is there, and they want me to come into the office with my firearm. They inspect my firearm, and I'm saying to myself, you just looked at this Friday. Inspect my firearm, I got the stolen firearm in my holster.
Oh, wow.
So they forced me to resign. It was either resign or go to prison.
Yeah.
Or be charged for possession of stolen property.
Which ended up being a pretty good thing in life, because you might still be doing the same thing you were doing at that time, but it propelled you, so you didn't let that destroy you either.
So then,
what was the good choice you made that propelled you forward from there?
Then I just decided it was time to go back to school. So I went back to school. I got my bachelor's from John Jay, and like I said, I always wanted to be a lawyer. Applied for law school. I got into Thurgood Marshall School of Law, Texas Southern University.
See that?
Historically black college, and one of 4 black law schools in the country. I got into Thurgood, and here I am.
Yeah. So you know that's a powerful story, because you could have given up at any moment, any time, with the negativity that was in your life, but you made the right decision. You knew who you were on the inside, and that's very important, because you have some children, young people out there. They're being called every name in the book. You know, they're living in households where they don't have the supportive mom that you have. And they, you know, they're called every name. You're never going to be nothing. You're never going to mount up to nothing. And they have to hear this over and over. And they go out on the streets, and they have the things that you experience, they're experiencing right now. And today, you are an attorney, a federal attorney here, because you did not give up. You understood who you were on the inside, and that's really important. I am a school board member today, and holding a doctorate degree, because I understood who I was on the inside, not allow my circumstances, because I was one of those children I just described, and I didn't allow that to take me down the wrong road. I made a lot of mistakes. You know, I'm also someone who received their GED, you know, and in the 9th grade, dropped out of school in the 9th grade because of what I had to endure. But I made the decision on my own, without anyone telling me to do it. But the good part about it was to go to a school that would help me prepare me for my GED. But the wonderful thing about it was, even though we have all this negativity in life, there are people who are willing to help. There was a little program in a little house that I knocked on that door, and it was to help people get their GEDs. It was from the State College, Montclair State College at the time, and they came into my little neighborhood in this little house, and they started me where I had shut off to learning. I had just completely, while the teacher was teaching, I'd be looking out the window somewhere, just sitting there, not hearing anything. But when I decided I wanted to get that next step. I did not want to be a dropout. I did not want to not have a degree or my diploma. I couldn't make it through that high school because of things were rough. But that program in that neighborhood and me making that decision to go to that program and really get my go for it, caused me to go to the next level. And when I was ready, I went back to school, not understanding whether or not I would be able to graduate or learn or what have you. But there were things in my life, people that came into my life that encouraged me. And the head of that program wanted me to go to Montclair State College, said I had what it took. Her words propelled me years later to say, I still remember what that woman said to me. I didn't take the advantage of it then, but I remember what she said. And having a supportive husband that propelled me to, okay, go for it. I want to go back to school. I want to get my college degree. Go for it. He had to cook. He had to iron. He had to help clean. He had, just so I could focus on my education. And that was the next step that I made, that I chose to make with the support that I had. Who or what can you be thankful for that helped you get where you are today?
There are a number of people, like you said. I think part of this is running into people and people understanding your spirit and knowing and giving you that hand, because none of us make it by ourselves. But one of the most influential people in my lives was a Latino brother that I met as an adult by the name of Ramon Jimenez. He too was a lawyer, Harvard educated, came back from New York City, came home, could have done anything he wanted to do. And what he wanted to do was fight for the people. And that's what he dedicated his entire life to doing. When he passed poor because his focus had always been on the people, the communities. He was one of the leaders who founded Hostess Community College in the Bronx. It started in the warehouse. When the schools were trying to close it down, he helped lead protests against the city, forced them to keep it open. Ramon was a great dude. He was a great man, and he taught me a lot. He taught me a lot in the organizing field, because that's how I met him. I had always been in the streets. One time in the streets, not the right way. The next time, but I had always been in the streets protesting. I had always had this spirit in me that whatever was going on here, it wasn't right. So I protested wars. I was always in the street doing protests, and I met Ramon, and he just helped me see things on a political level. He helped me see things on a Black radical tradition level, that even though I had read about it and had been reading about it since I was a young man, a young child, he helped me see it in reality and understand it better.
And see it in action.
Yes, yes.
And so that was like your mentor and took you further and pushed you further along in that direction.
One of the mentors in my life, yes.
And then you became an attorney. What do you do today as an attorney? Who do you fight for? What are you doing at this moment?
As an attorney, I've always fought for people who couldn't, indigent people, people who can't afford attorneys. I've always worked for poor people. I've never worked in a firm. I've never worked for big money. I didn't want to be a prosecutor coming out. I didn't want to prosecute people. I wanted to try to help save people. So I started out as a public defender in New York City. I did that for about 5 years. And then I became a federal public defender in Pensacola, Florida. I was in Pensacola for about 3.5, 4 years, and I went back to New York and went private. But even as a private attorney, I got involved with the Criminal Justice Act panel. It's a panel of private attorneys that the federal court vets to appoint to people who can't afford lawyers. So I did that work in the feds and in the state as a private attorney for about 12 years, and then I got back into the federal system. I started in Pensacola, left, went to New York, left New York, went to Memphis, Tennessee. I was an assistant federal public defender there, and then I left Memphis and I came here.
How did you push through your worst times? How did you stay on the path of getting to where you are today? You ever think about that?
I think it, again, just knowing who I was, just knowing, just knowing.
So you didn't blame all the folks out there, but you looked inside.
Well, in looking inside, I did look inside.
Yeah.
But I'm the type who I put blame where blame is.
Right.
And I don't say, well, I'm not gonna, even though you're the one, you're to blame, it's okay, I'm gonna shoulder this. Nah, if you're part of the problem, then you should be part of the solution. So I never not look at that. So I look at all of it. I look at our conditions here in this country. I look at the obstacles that we as a people have to face. I see all of that.
We are almost out of time, and your story is just so incredible that we had to really just kind of stay in certain places. But what advice would you give someone going into leadership position for the first time?
I think to be a leader, you have to show by example. So I guess the best advice I can give someone going into quote unquote a leadership position is just to be genuine, be fair.
Those are characteristics.
Be fair.
Be genuine. And be genuine. That's important. Be fair.
Be fair. Never compromise on who you are.
Okay.
Right? Never, for anything, for a buck, for crumbs, never compromise who you are. It's going to cost you. It's going to cost you. But by staying who you are and by being fair and equitable, you can encourage people to want to follow you. That's a real leader.
Okay.
Not someone who makes someone follow them. Someone who has people following them because they want to follow them.
Do you have any particular book or books that really helped change your life that you can share with us now?
The Spook Who Sat by the Door by Sam Greenleaf.
The Spook Who Sat by the Door. Okay.
It's a book about a brother who grew up in Chicago, became one of the first brothers hired by the CIA, and he took all that training, endured the racism, endured everything he had to endure, went back to Chicago, organized the gangs, and started a revolution.
We're going to end on that note. And we certainly want to have you back at a later date where we could just have real good discussion here, because there's so many people that need to hear being true to oneself and how to succeed in spite of. And that is your story. And I'm sure you've helped a lot of young men and women, hopefully, that are incarcerated now. I know you're going to the prison, the jail when you leave here. And this morning you were in court, being there for someone and supporting someone. And so thank you so much. I hope that if I ever find someone that wants to walk in your path, I can send them to you as a mentor, someone that's sincere in their walk to success, because you are definitely an example of how to walk in spite of. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms.
for coming.
Dr. Mills.
Thank you so much for coming on the program. We appreciate the time that you've given.
Thank you, ma'am.